Hey, what is going on? What is going on? This is Mike Clark. Good knowledge. We powered by the War Team, man. We here, right? So I want to talk about VA home loan. I want to talk about the misconceptions. I want to talk about people's fear. I want to talk about the confusion. And like anybody in the military, if you already know it, the best way if someone's trying to correct you, you hurry up. Waste no time looking at the regulations. Now, one of the resources we're going to go through is, and it's not the only resource you can use, but this is, a decent resource that you can use to verify what a lender can do. Also, how you can utilize the VA home loan. Gives you a lot more information in detail. And now you're not just going off of what someone's telling you, and you can at least have some sort of knowledge about the VA home loan. So the source for using is the VA Lender's Handbook M26-7. You can Google that. Just Google it. It should pop up, or you go to the VA.gov website, I believe. That might be the best way to go. Let me see. I just have to go to Google and put VA Lenders. Or not even VA Lenders. You can do VA Home Loan Handbook. So there's another one here. It comes up, and it does come up from the VA Veterans Benefits Administration.gov. So you can go there, benefits.va.gov, and you'll see this actual pamphlet from that website. That way you know for sure it's been updated. Any changes, going to that website, you should be able to have the most recent and current pamphlet. So that's where I pulled this information from, right? And and just going back to that, if you pull up the website, you're going to see that as well. Or like chapter 3, was just recently added. Well, it's not recently added, but it just says new from May 14, 2024. So that was a recent change in 2024, same as chapter 5, how to process VA loans and submit them to VA. And then refinancing loans, that was changed in October 30th, 2024. Chapter 7 was redone, loans requiring special underwriting. That was changed 6/5/2024. As well as 2 other appendices. So, like I said, go to the website, find that resource, read it from there. And then now you have a little bit of ammo when you go and talk to the lenders. Now, I would also say this, it's no use to make you guys wait. The VA will have requirements, and I believe they have a loose guidelines to the point that they will help a veteran into a home. However, when it comes to the certain rules that we're going to go over and requirements that maybe met, or eligibility requirements, right? You may say, hey, the VA doesn't require me to have a credit score, or the VA doesn't require me to have a minimum credit score to qualify for a home mortgage. Understand that just because the VA doesn't require something doesn't mean that lender doesn't require something. So the person lending the money to you to purchase a home may have requirements around it, where they may want you at a 650, 720, whatever they may make their requirements to be. You want to make sure you understand that, all right? So doesn't mean that there's not options out there. Doesn't mean that someone doesn't follow this thing to the T. When it comes to a lender, you just have to do your research. You have to find those particular lenders. So we're going to roll right into it, man. That's a little caveat for it. But at the very, very beginning, there's some other stuff. But I want to start here. I want to start how to apply for a certificate of eligibility. No. This is for lenders. We're going to talk about this document in depth. I don't know if I want to show mine or not, but I do want to put this here. Let's see. So proof of service requirements. This may be something that this issue is on a lot of people's minds, especially if you got out of the military, quicker than you wanted, quicker than you decided, or maybe you just made it through basic training or AIT, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I have enough things. I don't know if I'm considered a veteran. I know some people, when I talk to them, because they didn't complete a certain milestone within their military career, they don't see themselves as veterans. So say, for example, you have a veteran, finished the military 4 years, but they believe they needed to go to war to be considered a veteran, or just because it was straight peacetime and they only made it through training, or they only made it through training. That may be another issue where they may not have it in their mind that they're better. You have to understand, when you're talking to people who've been in the military, there's so many different reasons why they join. But a lot of them, I will be honest, a lot of them are pro-American, I don't know how to say it, man. A lot of them still have, I would say, old-fashioned thinking. We just have core values instilled in us. Majority of us, right? I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but majority of us, like, we have these core principles. Even as we come out, it's kind of ingrained in us. If we don't feel like we deserve something, we don't want to put our hand up. But we have to understand that when you've earned it, there's not a lot of veterans in America. There's not a lot of people who raise their hand to say, hey, I'm willing to join the military. I'm willing to put my life on the line for America. That's it. It is what it is. Some countries, and I'm going on a tangent now, some countries require you right after you finish high school to enlist immediately for 1, 2, 4 years, and then you go about your day. So there's a lot more there's more camaraderie and there's more respect for their country, because at some point it's mandatory that all citizens have to put their life on the line. That's what you're doing essentially, because you're defending your country in case there's a call to action and if something's ever needed from you. Same with America. You join the military, you don't know what might happen to you. So that's what I would say. When you're talking to a veteran, listen, understand them, but then also let them know that no matter what you may have done during your time, whether it was during a wartime, or if it was during peacetime, if you only made it through AIT, if you hit these criteria, if you hit these basic requirements, you should utilize these particular programs and benefits, because they are yours. You earned them. So we want to go to proof of service requirements. The last change date was March 28th, 2019. Discharged veterans, regular military. The DD-214, this is the form that you get when you exit the military. It's going to have all your, military history of how long you've been in, your discharge, what kind of discharge you had, etc. This is the document that military personnel get when they exit the military. So, the DD-214 form, certificate of release or discharge from active duty, will generally contain all the information needed for VA to make an eligibility determination for persons who served on active duty of the regular component of the armed forces. The regular armed forces include active duty in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, or Coast Guard. VA will accept legible copies of the form DD-214 form. Veterans separated after October 1st, 1979 should furnish member copy 248. So there's different types of DD-214s. Essentially, some things are redacted on particular DD-214s, so you can pass out information. There's, I believe, the member 2 is, I don't know if it's member 2 or member 4, but that has all of your information. Discharge, date, some private information that only you want to know. And then if you have to utilize the DD-214 for a particular benefit, but you want some stuff to stay private, there's another version that you can hand in. But once again, it just depends on what's needed. Okay, so should furnish member copy 248 or any copy of a DD-214 form that includes a COS and the narrative reason for separation. Veterans separated from the military service after January 1st, 1950 receive documentation other than DD-214. To be acceptable, it should indicate LOS and COS. I don't think anyone falls under that criteria that I know personally. However, if someone falls under that you may know. 1950s. That's, yeah. How old are you? Shoot. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So make sure you have that information, right? Okay, so now we're gonna go to veterans still on active duty. Now this is for veterans on active duty. So like I said, you can utilize the VA home loan while you're on active duty. This is a misconception right here, because I promise you, most people didn't understand that they could use certain benefits, or they wanted to wait until they got out, or they didn't know that particular VA home loan was unlocked after a certain amount of time. Like they truly thought they had to wait until they got out. And I promise you, there are so many different, I would say, different ways or methods that you could use the VA home loan to benefit you while you're in the military, but it's not talked about enough. So one nugget that I would say is every duty station, be open-minded to the fact that you could utilize it at every duty station. How would you use this at every duty station? You get to your duty station, you would get with a lender, make sure you're pre-approved, pre-qual, all that good stuff. Find your realtor, have that realtor tell you about the market, tell you about the area, tell you where you're going to buy. If it's a VA home loan, I mean, not VA home loan, but if it has an HOA, HUD, PID, all that information, you need to know all this information. Once you understand that, put your offer in, get accepted, go through the process, get your home, right? You need to live in that home for at least a year. And you say, Mike, I might end up leaving early. I might get deployed. Hey, you just have the intention to live there for a year. Just because your military requirements made you move or your circumstances changed, you're still able to use this product at other locations. So you can use it more than once. So that's what I would say. For most of us, every duty station, you can utilize buy a home here, go to your next duty station, buy another home there. And then what you're going to do as you leave is, so you can manage it, you can either one, self-manage it yourself, get the resources, and hopefully you're plugged in with the right realtor and they can give you all those resources, or you can get what's called a property manager and they can manage all of the properties. So once again, we're going to move on. So veterans still on active duty. Proof of service for veterans on active duty is a statement of service signed by or the direction the adjutant, personnel office, or commander of the unit or higher headquarters they're attached to. There is no unique form used by the military for an SOS. So memorandum, I don't know, whatever they need to use, something. So here we go. While an SOS is typically on a military letterhead, it may also be electronic, and both are acceptable. The SOS must clearly show the veteran's full name, social security number, or the last four of your social security number, entry date on active duty, duration of lost time, if any, name and point of contact for the unit commander. So too easy, something easy saying you're still in. Now, for my discharged reserve guard members, your requirements are a little different. However, you still fall in the same boat. You just gotta find out what makes you eligible, right? There is no one form used by the Reserve or National Guard that is similar to BD 214 form. Selected reserve describes a member or unit with a ready reserve designated by their respective services and approved by the Joint Chief of Staff as so essential to initial wartime missions that they have priority over all other reserves. So this is the first time I'm reading this as well, so we're going to go through this together. I was active duty, so I didn't fall under this point, but this is great because, if I do ever have a client that is a guard member, I can give them more information because, like I said, there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to guard members as well, when they can utilize it, how they can utilize it. It's just, like I said, a lot of misinformation. The National Guard is a unique element of the U.S. military that serves both community and country. Any state governor or the president of the United States can call on the Guard in a moment's notice. Discharged members of the Army or active National Guard may submit NGB Form 22. Let's remember that. NGB Form 22, Report of Separation and Record of Service, and NGB Form 23B, Retirement Point Summary Statement, with the COS, Certificate of Service, right? Certificate of Service. So, typically, all members of the Reserve and or Guard receive an annual retirement point summary, which indicates the level and length of participation. Along with evidence of honorable service, VA will accept legible copies. All right, here we go. Current Reserve Guard members, people that are current. So what we just talked about is discharged Reserve Guard members, right? You got out of the military. These are the documents that are required. Now we're talking about current Guard members. Like I said, once you meet that eligibility, then now we're talking about what documents you need. So individuals who are still members of the Reserve National Guards must provide SOS signed by or by the direction of the unit, personal office, or commander of the unit. All right. While an SOS is typically on military letterhead, some may be electronic, and both are acceptable. So it's kind of the same requirements as an active duty as well. If called to active duty, copy of orders must accompany the SOS with the name and point of contact for the commander unit. So like I said, something you can get from your commander saying that you're in your active duty or you're active within the guards. So you have your unit and all the information on there. That's literally it. Veteran's full name, social security number, entry date, something verifying that you are a guard member. All right, now here we go. This is what you guys want to know. Topic 5. Once again, it's the VA Lender's Handbook M26-7. Topic 5, basic eligibility requirements. And this was date March 28, 2019. Chapter has been revised in its entirety. General rule for eligibility. A veteran is eligible for the VA home loan benefits if he or she served on active duty in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, or Coast Guard after September 15, 1940, and was discharged under conditions other than dishonorable after either 90 days or more, any part of which occurred during wartime, or 181 days, continuous days or more peacetime. So, for example, when I got in, the wars that were going on was the Iraqi war, and then you also had, Afghanistan. So we were going to both different war zones, and so I fell under this particular one, 90 days or more, any part of which occurred during wartime. Now, if I didn't, which currently right now we're not technically under any wartime conditions, 181 days or more during peacetime, you're now eligible, right? So let's move on. The 2-year requirement. A greater length of service is required for veterans who enlisted and service began after September 7th, 1980, or entered service as an officer after October 16th, 1981. So for our older veterans, this was a little different for you guys. So you can see how things changed, and this is not a benefit our great grandparents had, man. It just, it sucks. But I'm glad at some point, I don't know what happened here, where someone decided, hey, we need to change these requirements. We need to allow our veteran community to be able to have a home. So this is, great information right here. The veterans must have completed either 24 continuous months of active duty or the full period of which called or ordered to active duty, but not less than 90 days, right? So it says it right here, wartime and peacetime refers to the following period of service. We're talking about wartime was dedicated around these times. It's telling you the date of World War II from 1940 to 1947. You got the Korean conflict, 1950 to 1955. You have Vietnam era from 64 to 75. Persian Gulf, 1990, date to be determined. So I don't know what they mean by date to be determined. They need to figure that piece out. And then peacetime, post-World War period, 47 to 50, 55 to 64, 75 to 90. And then from here, we're talking about eligibility for reserve and or guard. Members of the Reserve and National Guard who are not otherwise eligible for loan gratuity benefits are eligible upon completion of 6 years of service and active or drilling status. So let's see, let's reread this. And once again, man, you guys have seen me read this live. Like I didn't read this beforehand, and I want you guys to understand some of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I can see how you may not understand it, or you may need to reread it. Like, I'm about to reread this piece right here just to understand from a guard's perspective what the requirements is. So, eligibility for reserves and or guard. Members of the Reserve and National Guards who are not otherwise eligible for loan gratuity guarantee benefits are eligible upon completion of 6 years of service in an active or drilling status in the reserves or guard, unless released earlier specifically for a service-connected disability. Okay, so that's information right there that says, hey, you don't have to fall under the 6-year requirement if you're released early specifically for a service-connected disability, and it doesn't give you a rating. So that's great information there. The applicant must have received an honorable character of discharge. Okay, so you gotta make sure you're getting out on the right status, right? Nothing crazy. A general or under honorable discharge is not a qualifying or acceptable character of discharge. So, in general or under honorable condition. This is like when you got in trouble, something happened. However, don't let this stop you either, because there are ways to challenge your discharge later on. I've heard of that and I've seen that. So definitely do your research and figure out, because you can see how this can hold you back from a tool that could really change your life. So don't let it hold you back. Try to figure out what you can do and see if you can get it corrected, right? So servicing an individual ready, reserve, or control group inactive status is not qualifying length of service for the home loan program. Basic eligibility table. This is something else. All right, now we're going to spouses. You know, this is something that people don't understand either, and especially your spouses. We all know, I wouldn't say we all know, but unless your spouse is really plugged into understanding regulations and understanding different resources and who to speak to during situations, then they may miss the benefits that they can still utilize. So right here it says some spouses of veterans may have home loan eligibility. They are the unmarried surviving spouse of a veteran. You gotta be unmarried. You can get remarried. Who died as a result of service or service-connected causes. Surviving spouse of a veteran who dies on active duty, service-connected causes, who remarries on or after 1857 and on or after December 16, 2003. So if they wait, there you go, they still qualify. So that's the military will make sure you don't represent your spouse to the end. You gonna represent that person. All right, spouse of an active duty member was listed as MIA or POW for at least 90 days. Eligibility under this MIA POW provision is limited to a one-time use. Now, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't even say, like, understand that this is not. We don't. Let me see before I say it. There's an article from CNN World, POW and MIA in Iraq. Fast facts. So there are some individuals that were declared MIA, right? MIA. I don't see any POWs. It didn't happen. But yeah. So like I said, this is this requirement right here that we're going through right now. You know, I want to be extremely sensitive right here. Like understanding that, hey, if you know anybody that's going through a situation where, hey, you know, whether they were in Iraq, Afghanistan, if it was a wartime issue and they're MIA or POW, you know, you have this requirement right here. Spouse of an active duty member was listed, right, for at least 90 days. It's eligible. It's limited to one-time use only. But you know, I would tell you, this is big right here, man, because you know that's respectful, man. That's just respectful. At the end of the day, it's just respectful, and that we forget that the military does want to take care of it. That is the overall idea, man. You know, people that are giving up their life, people are called to battle, called to the military. I know it was times we were in the military. I know me personally, I was in it, and I took it serious, but I didn't take it as serious. And if something happened, we all got to that point. If something happened, something happened. You know, we didn't really know at the time what we were really doing. But it's nice to know that benefits like this that were thought through, and you know, they were going to take care of our significant other in case something terrible happened to our family. Surviving spouses of veterans who die from non-service connected causes may also be eligible if certain conditions are met. See, this is right here is important as well. Right here is important. Surviving spouses of veterans who died from non-service connected. So this is saying, hey, this didn't happen in the military. Whatever cause of death happened, if it wasn't service connected, you still may be eligible if certain conditions are met. So that right there that's beneficial as well. Surviving spouse who is eligible for or in receipt of certain types of dependency. This right here, like I said, man, these are so unique that if you don't know it, you're gonna have a hard time. And that's the other thing about making sure you have a lender that understands this book, understands this pamphlet, understands the guidelines and what could make you eligible, because you have to understand, unless you really talk about this in conversation as you're going through the process, this may never even come up. You could literally not know that you fall under this and your spouse just passed away, and you know you don't, because it's sensitive, you're not going to bring it up. I don't even know how this conversation gets brought up unless someone asks, hey, are you recently married, or hey, did you have a spouse, and they just go more in depth with it. I can't even picture how this conversation will come up. But for the ones that are watching this video or understanding, if you have a friend, family, or colleague, you can say, hey, you may know them on a more personal level. Hey, did you know you have this benefit? Did you know you can utilize this? This is normally how these benefits are marketed, word of mouth at the end of the day, man. That's how I found out about a lot of different benefits. Because you just don't know, man. Like I said, a lot of these benefits aren't marketed. They're not on a commercial. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They're not through the hallways of the VA. I promise you, you got to read them. You got to find it. You got to look for it. You got to research it. You got to call the right people. So, additional eligibility. So, all of this is not enough. You got an additional eligibility, right? The table below provides a quick reference to some additional types of eligible veterans. This table is not exhaustive. The veteran eligibility for home loan benefits may only be determined by VA. So this is a great point. understand it. Do not just allow them to give you a pre-qual or, without pulling your COE, certificate of eligibility. They need to have that available to know that, hey, you do qualify, you are pre-qual, we do have your COE, you're approved through the VA, that's good as gold, right? So you just want to make sure that's all great, especially my realtors make sure that as well, because you could have somebody trying to put an offer in, they could be saying they're pre-qual or whatever, and then boom, you end up finding out once they actually go through the full piece and they actually look up their COE, oh, they're not eligible, they've already used it, maxed it out, or I don't know if it's max out requirements, but maybe they assume their loan to a non-veteran, because that's something I learned as well. I think we're going to read it somewhere in here. We might not get to it tonight, but assumables could be a game changer. If you don't understand them, you could really mess someone over. As a veteran, if I have a home loan and for some reason I just don't want to take, I'm ready to leave my home. I want someone to take it over. I can do what's called a assumable loan to another veteran, and that veteran can now use their benefits to take over for this home. So essentially, whatever benefits that I had tied up into this home comes back to me. The new veteran comes over, their COE is now established, and they take over the home, right? Now, if it's a non-veteran, that's the problem, right? I let a non-veteran assume my loan. Now, my benefits stay with the house until that non-veteran either sells the home or refinance the home. So now, it's time for me to go try to buy a house, and I want to use my COE. I may not qualify for as much as I need, or whatever, because it's tied up in another house. So be mindful of that. Understand that. Let's see. Other qualifying service. Congress has periodically granted veteran status to groups other than the members of the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, such as certain members of the Public Health Service and cadets at the Service Academy. Wow. Listeners should contact one of the RLCs for assistance with one of these unique cases encountered. Once again, how are you going to know this, bro? Unless someone tells you. Not to mention, I don't see Space Force on here. I thought you guys were laughing about Space Force. That's a real thing, bro. It's a real thing. All right. Exceptions to LOS. There are numerous exceptions to LOS requirements. Link the service requirements to LOS requirement outlined in this section. For example, 1 day of service is sufficient for an individual who is discharged or released from service, regular active duty, or reserve National Guard due to a service-connected disability, which will be listed on the discharge paper. Wow. You are eligible for the VA home loan even if you have 1 day of service. Just your luck, that first initial day of your contract, say you go to basic training and break your leg, find out something wrong with you. I don't know what would qualify you to do that in 1 day, but man, that's crazy right there. So you only need 1 day of service. That's big, man. Big. Once again, when a COE is denied, so certificate of eligibility, when is it denied? The table below provides a quick reference to some additional types of eligible veterans. This table is not exhaustive. A veteran's eligibility for home loan benefits may only be determined by VA. Once again, that's who does it. So I want to go out of this. I want to go here. This is big, all right? Because I ran into this issue not too long ago, and I want you guys to really understand this. We talked about it earlier. Topic 7, misuse of veterans' entitlement. Now, understand, the premise of the VA home loan is to get veterans qualified to get into a home. We're always, it's difficult for most veterans to get a home because of so many different variables. It's already difficult enough for most people to get get homes because it takes time, right? It takes time to save up, down payment. It takes time to qualify yourself. It takes time to put yourself in a situation where you're ready to go. Because, like I said, the norm is conservative home loan, right? That's 20-25% down. Your credit has to be a certain way. You gotta be ready to go, ready to move, and get a home. However, it could be challenging for some other families. So this is why the VA home loan was created, to help veterans, give them, an advantage and help them get to the American dream a little bit faster. So that's what this topic 7 is talking about: misuse of veteran entitlement. Because you got to understand. Let's read it first. What constitutes misuse? The basic requirement of the law governing the VA home loan program is that the veteran has a bona fide intention of occupying his or her property as a home. Home loan entitlement is not being used properly if the veteran arranged to sell or convey the property to a third party prior to closing the loan. So you can't have intentions on saying, hey, I'm going to buy this home just to sell it again because someone else is going to pay more for it. You're using it as an investment, right? Same thing. You don't want to convey it or transfer it or have the idea that your intentions were never to move into a home. You have to have intentions to move into a home. I promise me, I've moved into every home, and yeah, you have to stay in it for a year. I mean, that's a great trade-off, to not have to put anything down, regardless. So regardless, you have to wait that year. That's light work, man. That's nothing. Honor the program. Do what you're supposed to be doing, because this is not everybody. I wouldn't say not every. If you didn't raise your hand, you didn't listen, you didn't fall into any of those categories we talked about earlier. This is not given to everybody. And we don't want to lose it because we have a bad bunch. Because you guys know how that can happen, man. We want to make sure we're controlling it. Spend your year in there. You have the intention of moving in. Of course, life happens, but go in there with good faith. Go, because the VA, obviously, like I said, we're reading every scenario of how this VA loan works. Who's eligible, spouses that are eligible. VA did that thoughtful piece for you. You can at least return the favor, right? So what to do? Contact the VA RLC with jurisdiction over the property for advice regarding any case in which there may be a question regarding the legality of entitlement use. All right, so be careful, guys. So that was page 14. That was actually the last piece on here. Some of this other stuff is strictly lender stuff. I didn't want to go too in depth with everything, but I want to continue to read this because what it does, it helps you guys. Of course, you guys get to hear it, read it, and we're reading it together, right? So for me as well, I'm digesting it. I'm starting to understand it, and I'm gonna do it so many times that it's gonna be second nature. I'm gonna do this for FHA, conventional. I'm gonna try to do at least, these sessions when I can't sleep. Like today, I couldn't sleep, so this helps because now tomorrow, if I have a question or if I have a situation with a VA home loan, or I have someone who is a reserve, I can give them information. So I have someone who says, hey, I was service connected. I only finished a couple days. They don't know if they qualify. Well, we just found out you qualify after 1 day. Like, you only need 1 day in the military if you got out service connected. I now know about spouses. What qualifies a spouse to continue and how they may be eligible to be a home loan. Once again, you're not going to know that information unless you have those conversations. So as I have conversations throughout the week, I can bring this information up and give them the tools to help them move forward, right? So the other thing here, man, what's certificate of eligibility tells the lenders? This right here, I want to talk about more in depth, probably on its own, because I think it's big here. People need to understand. I will give you this. And it's information I found out, and I have yet to hear anybody say it. If you have not used your entitlement, and say, man, you're making good money out of the military. You're just making great money. Understand that you are eligible for any property as long as you qualify for it. Let me repeat that. If you can qualify for a particular home, say $1 million home, the VA will do a VA home loan, and you're not putting any money down on it because that is part of your benefit. But that's your initial entitlement. Now, if you use it and you try to use it again, then you fall under what are called county limits. The county has a limit on maximizing the VA home loan and guaranteeing certain, the gratuity, the guarantees. What the VA does, for most of you guys that don't understand, the VA loan is insuring 25% of that particular loan. So say, for example, you get a $100,000 property, 25% is covered by the military. They're not giving 25% to the lender, but what the VA and the government is saying at the end of the day, essentially, if you foreclose for whatever reason, they will make up the 25%. So $25,000 will be sent to that lender if you're foreclosed on. So understand that when we talk about, and it's kind of wrapping the whole foreclosure piece together. You get foreclosed on, understand that, hey, the lender is okay lending money to should be okay lending money to a VA loan applicant because they know they're getting their money back. They're going to end up foreclosing their home once they get it back, so they'll sell it. Even if they make 80, 90, or 75, they only need to make $75,000 on a $100,000 home. So, but usually the starting bid is what is owed, so they're going to get what's owed, right? But for whatever reason they can't, then boom, the VA is making up that difference. So that's what's great about this loan, bro. This was great about this loan. But if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me. Pass this information, share it, do whatever, critique it, do whatever, man. I'm only one brave enough. I would say the only one, but man, I'm one of the select few that will come on here, man, put my face to it, and just talk this thing out. Because I promise you, man, information is not readily available, or we don't know where to look for it, or we just, we professionals going to have our best interest. Understand that some of this stuff in here is very unique. So a lender, a real estate agent, underwriter, whoever is part of the home process transaction, they process and they work on and they talk to so many different people that I promise you, unless someone's doing this stuff daily and really studying this stuff front and back, but they're going to miss something. Like I said, there's a post that To Do El Paso put on there and sponsored, right? But I want you guys to understand that we put some stuff out about an HOA, seal, PUDs, and it's the same thing every day, man. I don't see how this can happen. It's the title company's responsibility to let you know. Yes, you could say all of those things, but I would say no. It's no one's responsibility at the end of the day because that's how people treat you. They treat you like an adult, and to the point that if you don't understand what you're reading, you got to get with a lawyer. But we just assume everyone has our best interest. You just got to make sure that person is super knowledgeable. How do you know that someone's knowledgeable? Just having the basic information so you can kind of follow along to understand, okay, that does make sense, or hey, this is a resource that you could use to read up on this, or everything in life is a chance. Everything in life, nothing is guaranteed. We think we know someone, even our personal friends, we think we know someone, we really don't. We think we know this person, we really don't. We think this person has our best interest, and at the end of the day, we find out. We all have that time in our life, at least me specifically, and I got to go back to me because, when you're in trouble or you need something and you assume someone's going to help you with something and they don't, you feel betrayed. So don't think that something can't happen when you're with a professional. Majority of them do have your best interest, but everyone's not built the same. There's through networking, I'm getting to know a lot of great people who really love what they do and have a passion for it. But on the other hand, I've met some people who I think can care less, bro. Can care less. They just want to sell. So take that with a grain of salt moving forward. Understand that you want to have some basic knowledge of what's going on with the real estate transaction. You want to ask the questions. Don't rush. I tell you, my first time at the closing table was the longest time, and then moving forward, it was a lot quicker. My first time, I didn't know what I was signing, and I sat there and I skimmed over. If I needed to skim over, I read what I needed to read over, and I believe the notary was kind of, pushing me. No, you don't need to read that. No, let me at least skim over. Let me at least summarize and try to read as much as I can. Because it is a lot of paperwork. I'll tell you that too, man. So if you are going to the closing table, yes, be happy, but understand the transaction is not done until it's funded and until you sign those papers. You want to make sure you understand. Read those disclosures at least. Go over those disclosures. That's how everything is disclosed to you. I would say that. So when it comes to HOAs, all this stuff, it is disclosed to you. There is a document. I promise you, if for whatever reason you challenged it, you decided you wanted to go to court. I'm not a lawyer, but there's going to probably be something with your signature on it. You didn't even know it because you were just signing, bro. So take your time, read stuff. I want to go over this again. Probably gonna go over this all month. To front and back. So my man Mike really knows this paragraph front and back. But there's another document that I wanted to show you guys. But this is right here where I got it from. Like I said, benefits.va.gov. You can go on here, and this is the lender's handbook. This is what the lender's pulling up. This is what they're referencing, right? But there's another document. Pamphlet, right? This is the lender's. It's the same thing. This is the more detailed one right here. Lender's Handbook, VA Pamphlet 26-7, SBC, 600 pages. So this really opens up everything, right? And this is what we're going to talk about. So before a lender starts making a VA loan, lenders that are considered supervised, veterans eligibility, entitlements. So go read chapter 2, chapter 3, the underwriting. Oh my God. Look at this. Let's see. Debts and obligations. Income. How to underwrite vehicle. Assets. Income tax. Documentation. Credit history. Let's go this way. Let's go to, I don't want to take too much more time. Control F4-44. All right, boom. Okay, so that's owed to the federal government. Credit score, because you guys do this. Okay, look at this. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look how this works, how this lays out. So we're on a VA pamphlet 26-7, revised, chapter 4, right? What is it? Everyone says, oh, you gotta have a credit score. You gotta have a credit. My credit is not good enough. My credit is not where it needs to be as a VA home. Understand, the VA is not requiring this. VA does not have a minimum credit score. Who has a credit score? The lender has a credit score. So that is when you have to get with, and I would say get with a mortgage broker because they have more options. But you can find out who's going to help you when it comes to this. Because, like I said, all lenders are not built the same. So let's just read this piece, and then we're gonna wrap up. We already have 50 minutes. The borrower's past repayment practice or obligation is the best indicator of his or her willingness to repay future obligations. Emphasis should be on the borrower's overall payment patterns rather than isolated occurrences of unsatisfactory payment. Determine whether the borrower and spouse, if applicable, is satisfactory credit risk based on careful analysis of credit report and other credit data. So we read this, VA does not require minimum credit score, right? Rents and mortgage payment history, borrower's most recent 24-month history, and any outstanding assumed or recently retired mortgages must be verified and rated. Housing expense payment history often a primary indicator of how motivated the borrower is to making timely or paying mortgage fees. So this right here is telling you, what is it telling you? Like read between the lines. As long as you're paying everything timely, and it's more specifically your rent or your past mortgage, you're paying that faithfully, but something else you're falling behind, it's telling the VA, hey, yeah, they're falling behind on something. Yeah, but they take it seriously when it comes to their home. And you have to have roof over it and making sure that they're keeping up with that, at least at a minimum. The rest we can figure that piece out. They can figure that piece out at some point, but they're making this work. So that's what you have to understand, right? Absence of credit history for a borrower with no established credit history based on the determination of the borrower's payment record on alternative or non-traditional credit directly from the borrower or creditor in which a payment history can be verified. The absence of credit history is not generally considered an adverse factor. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the hell adverse means. But once again, you just control C. I've heard that word before, but right now I'm tired, so I don't think I remember adverse. Preventing success or development, harmful, unfavorable. Okay. So it's not harmful. There you go. It may result when borrowers have not yet developed a credit history, borrowers have routinely used cash rather than credit, and or borrowers has not used since disruptive credit events such as bankruptcy or debt proration through consumer credit counseling. Okay, so there you go. And this is why we're going to go through this, because there's so much stuff in here, and if you read this, it'll just debunk a lot of a lot of misinformation, because that's one. At least you can take that to the bank and say, hey, I read this. Mike went over this. No way. You know what I'm saying? But this thing is detailed, bro. This is the Bible. This is the VA Bible. At least know what the resource is. I appreciate you guys coming on. I'm sorry it went so long. I really wanted to do 30 minutes instead of 3 minutes. But you're probably gonna see this in the morning. I'm gonna be knocked out. But I appreciate you guys watching it, listening to me. Everything is for educational purposes only. However, if you want more information, or you want me to give you access, or different resources you can use or utilize, definitely don't hesitate to hit me up. Definitely don't hesitate to hit me up. As well as if you want to just sit down and you can have a one-on-one appointment, no commitments needed. Just sit down, go over your housing options, go over what you want to look for. Definitely don't hesitate either, man. I think a lot of people are fearful that if you sit down with a realtor, you have to commit to something, or you owe me something. You owe me nothing. I love appointments. Appointments show a commitment from me to you, or you to me, and saying, hey, you are taking this serious. You're willing to sit down and talk this thing out and try to figure it out. And that's all I can ask for, right? And then hopefully within that conversation, we can figure out how I can better assist you in overcoming whatever fears or overcoming whatever obstacles are keeping you from buying your first home, buying your second home, or overall your first fears over anything that maybe just in your head. So once again, like, comment, subscribe, please share. That's a free thing to do, man. That shows your appreciation to me. I appreciate y'all. If you put anything out, I guarantee I'll share it as well. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, man, that's where we at. So hey, thanks. Had to jump off.